Hey guys, it's Devin with 918 Software, and today I would like to speak to you a bit about the pros and cons of working with offshore development resources. Now, I've been working with offshoring since probably, I think, about 2003. How did I get into this? Well, I worked for a corporation. I was one of maybe 18 software developers that worked there at the time. And around that time, we had some hard times. September 11th had happened. The dot-com bubble had burst in the late 90s. And after the third round of layoffs, I was told that we were going to start working with offshore developers, and that if I wanted to ensure that I wasn't in the next round of layoffs, I should learn to love working with the Indians. I didn't really like that idea so much at first. I thought, why should good American jobs go off to some foreigners in some other strange land? And I have to tell you that I kind of changed my mind about that a little bit, and it was because my company sent me to Bangalore, India. I was sent there to train a group of software developers that were going to be working for us. And while I was there, I got to know the people, and I also got to see the conditions, and I thought, turns out that maybe people need jobs all over the world, so at least at that time in 2003, there was a lot of poverty where I was at, and it reminded me that even if you're an American and you think that you're poor, you're actually not poor. I tell people this all the time. Do you have clean drinking water? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have clothing for your back? If you do, then you're definitely not poor, okay? Also, if you're watching this video, you have an internet connection and you're watching YouTube, you're not poor. It's all a comparison game. But I digress. So once I decided that I was ethically okay with offshoring, and besides that, my job depended on it, I was going to go ahead and get to the next step, which was, how do I best accomplish this? And let me tell you, it's not for everybody, because it's actually very hard. Not only did I do it on and off professionally, but I've also done a bit of offshoring when I'm looking for subcontractors to work for my company. I've learned some lessons along the way. Let's just go over the list of pros and cons and see if it even makes sense for you. Okay, let's start with pro. You will pay a lower hourly or project rate for the work that you're getting done. There are developers around the world that will do the work at a fraction of the price that you will be paying for an American or United States born software developer. Now, this is free market capitalism at work, and it's not such a bad thing. And honestly, if you can find a developer that's offshore who does a good job, who communicates with you well, and who suits your needs and makes you a more successful company, then I think you should go for it. Pro, with the money you'll save, you may be able to hire multiple contractors to work on your project. More developers may mean that you get your job done more quickly. It may mean that you get more features before the deadline. Of course, this isn't always necessarily the case, but that's the upside potential. And again, if you can make it work for you, you win. Pro, also with the money that you save, you may be able to hire an entire team instead of just an individual developer. In the best case scenario, you may find a company that has a project manager who'll take care of all the details, who knows how to herd cats, breaking down the detailed requirements. You may just have to deliver like a requirements document and then walk away, take a nap for 2 weeks. That'll be a long nap. And then come back and you have this amazing deliverable. I don't think that happens as smoothly as I'd like to see it happen, so we'll get back to that. Now let's talk about the cons. Cons, it may be difficult to communicate. Obviously, if you're an English-speaking person, then you need to hire someone to work for you who speaks English, or at least somebody who knows how to text in English. I don't typically like to teleconference with offshore development resources. Between the accents, the American idioms, and the body language, sometimes it's just not as effective as it is just communicating via streams of text. I use Slack for that. Personally, I almost never actually talk to offshore developers. I find it's more useful in my case to find developers who have good written communication skills. Con, body language may be confusing. I don't know if you ever talked to like an Indian developer and they did one of these kind of deals. This is commonly referred to as a cobra head or bobblehead, or just sometimes the Indian head shake. One of the reasons it's confusing is, depending on the context, the motion may mean yes, I understand, or maybe it means maybe, or I'm not sure. And this could become a problem if you're asking, do you clearly understand the instructions? Con, you can't say really in the end who's going to have access to the source code. If you're working on a proprietary solution for a client, it's very likely that they don't want the source code distributed all throughout the world. And so you have to take extra precautions to ensure that the developer doesn't finish the project and then go and open source the thing on GitHub. Obviously, you will put language in the contracts to ensure that this won't happen, but I mean, how are you going to really enforce that? Are you really going to put in the time and energy to try to enforce a contract in an international forum, it just seems very expensive and it probably isn't going to work for a small business. One thing you might try is to segment the code. For example, when you're working with, let's say, a full stack web development stack, well, you have front-end code and you have back-end code. If you have different teams working on both parts and you don't make the source code available to each, then no one has the keys to the kingdom. They don't have the entire solution, because what you want to do is ensure that the Facebook clone that you wrote today doesn't end up on some other website with the same code base and just a different name on it tomorrow. Con, offshore developers disappear. And man, this is the one that really drives me crazy. Okay, so you find this guy or gal, and they're great. They write clean code, they're reliable, they're good communicators, and they seem to be ready to go. Throw them onto a project and they get rolling, and then all of a sudden they just disappear for 5 days. What are you gonna do? They've disappeared, they've gone AWOL. Are they dead? Were they hit by a bus? Did a camel walk over someone? Were they in a terrible helicopter crash? Were they eaten by lions? You don't know, and you're wondering what the heck to do. And it's for this reason that I won't work with a contractor without redundancy. And what do I mean by that? It means I hire one developer to do the job once I find someone with the right skill set, and then I hire another second developer to be his backup. I bring them both into the same team. They're both learning the code base, so that if developer 1 disappears, then developer 2 can step in. Now, obviously, if you're having to hire 2 developers, even with offshore cut rates, you may be no longer gaining the benefit of the first pro, which is a smaller cost. And there's another part to this, and this is a real killer if you don't do it. Don't hire anyone to do any work that you can't do yourself. Ultimately, if the developer disappears, you're still on hook for the solution, so you need to be ready to step in and take over and pick up the slack. Now, I've had some good success with offshoring, and it's been an important part of my business model. The number one thing it allows me to do is scale. So if I have a season where there's lots of work, more work than I can take on myself, then I have a way to scale out my team without actually hiring another employee. If you like this topic, and if you want to learn more, and if you want to hear about some of the things that have gone right, then go ahead and subscribe, give me a like or leave a comment just to let me know that you're actually interested in this. I have got one hell of a horror story about how things can go terribly, terribly wrong with offshoring. And it's quite a story. So if you're interested, again, subscribe or like, and I'll go ahead and make a video and tell you all about it.